I remember sitting with a couple on the verge of divorce. They had been married for 15 years, had 3 beautiful children, owned a successful business together, and by all outward appearances seemed to have everything. But as I listened to their story, I realized their relationship had become nothing more than an account that was completely overdrawn. Years of broken promises, small unkindnesses, and major betrayals had eroded every ounce of trust between them. They couldn't even discuss what to have for dinner without it becoming a battle. In over 30 years of working with people in boardrooms and family rooms, with executives and parents, with teams struggling to find synergy, I've discovered that every meaningful relationship, without exception, rests on one foundation. That foundation is trust, not personality techniques, not communication skills, not even good intentions. Trust. Now, let me explain why this matters, because what I call the emotional bank account represents a fundamental paradigm shift from the personality ethic to the character ethic in relationships. For decades, we've been conditioned to focus on techniques, the right words to say, the right body language, the right approaches to get people to like us or do what we want. But these are surface-level solutions to deep, character-based challenges. This is about the natural laws that govern all human relationships, principle-centered laws that are as real and unchanging as the law of gravity. Understanding this principle will transform not just how you relate to others, but how you build relationships that can weather any storm. When trust is high, communication is effortless, mistakes are quickly forgiven, and conflicts become opportunities for deeper understanding and growth. When trust is low, everything becomes difficult, suspicious, and draining. This is the foundation, the only foundation that makes genuine win-win thinking possible, that enables us to truly seek first to understand, then to be understood, and that creates the conditions for authentic synergy in our relationships. Without this foundation, these habits become mere techniques, manipulation dressed up as principle. With it, they become natural expressions of character-based influence that can literally transform every relationship in your life. And what I call the emotional bank account is a metaphor that describes the amount of trust that has been built up in a relationship. Just as you have a checking account at your bank, you have an emotional bank account with every person in your life, your spouse, your children, your colleagues, your friends. This metaphor is powerful because it helps us understand that relationships, like financial accounts, operate on unchanging principles of deposits and withdrawals. When you make deposits into someone's emotional bank account through genuine kindness, keeping your word, or small acts of consideration, you increase the trust balance. When you make withdrawals through broken promises, unkindness, or betraying confidences, you decrease the trust balance. Here's what I've learned. Small, consistent deposits compound over time, creating relationship capital that can withstand significant withdrawals. Think about it like compound interest in your financial investments. A husband who consistently remembers to call when he'll be late builds such trust that when he genuinely forgets one evening, his wife gives him the benefit of the doubt. A manager who regularly acknowledges her team's contributions creates such loyalty that when she has to deliver difficult feedback, they receive it as caring guidance rather than criticism. But remember, this is not technique-based rapport building, but character-based trust building. The difference is profound. Techniques are external and manipulative. They're about getting people to like you or do what you want. Character-based deposits are internal and principle-centered. They're about genuinely caring for another person's well-being and growth. Consider this. What's the current balance in your most important relationships? Are you generally making deposits or withdrawals? Some of you might realize you have relationships that are overdrawn, where every interaction is strained because the trust balance is so low that even innocent comments are interpreted negatively. This brings me to what I call the knowledge, skill, desire framework for building emotional bank accounts. First, you need the knowledge, understanding what constitutes a deposit for each individual person, because what feels like a deposit to you might actually be a withdrawal to someone else. Second, you need the skill, developing habits of consistent deposit making that become as natural as breathing. And third, you need the desire, genuine care for others' well-being over your own personal gain. Without all three elements working together, your efforts become techniques rather than authentic, character-based influence. These 6 deposits are not techniques to manipulate relationships, but character-based principles that create genuine trust. Deposit 1, understanding the individual, really seeking to understand what matters most to another person. A manager who learns each employee's career aspirations versus one who assumes everyone wants the same thing. A spouse who understands their partner's love language versus giving generic gestures. This requires humility and genuine curiosity about others. Deposit 2, attending to little things. Small acts of thoughtfulness and kindness consistently applied. Little things are the big things in relationships. A parent's daily bedtime routine versus occasional grand gestures, remembering a colleague's birthday versus only major acknowledgments. Consistency builds trust. Inconsistency destroys it. Deposit 3, keeping commitments. Your word is your bond, doing what you say when you said you do it, following through on household responsibilities versus making excuses, meeting deadlines versus overpromising and under-delivering. This deposit requires self-discipline and integrity. Deposit 4, clarifying expectations. Most relationship problems stem from unclear expectations. Clear household rules versus assumed understanding. Detailed project expectations versus vague assignments. Unclear expectations almost always lead to disappointment. Deposit 5, showing personal integrity. Being the same person in private as you are in public. Defending those not present. Keeping confidences. When people see your integrity with others, they trust you with themselves. Integrity takes years to build, seconds to destroy. Deposit 6, apologizing sincerely. When you make a withdrawal, apologize quickly and sincerely. Take responsibility, express genuine regret, commit to change. Major withdrawals require patient, consistent deposit making over time. Admitting mistakes demonstrates strength, not weakness. When you consistently make character-based deposits, something remarkable happens. You build what I call crisis-tested relationship capital. Relationships with high trust balances can weather any storm. Disagreements become discussions, conflicts become growth opportunities, misunderstandings are quickly resolved because both people give each other the benefit of the doubt. When trust is high, you can achieve solutions neither person could create alone. This is true synergy, where the whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts. High trust relationships naturally seek mutual benefit rather than personal advantage. They operate from win-win thinking because both people feel secure and valued. Here's a key principle. Focus on making deposits within your circle of influence rather than demanding deposits from others. You cannot force someone to trust you, but you can control your own trustworthiness. You can control your own character-based deposits. This creates what I call a long-term relationship legacy. The more deposits you make, the more capable you become of making them. It's like developing a muscle. The more you exercise genuine care and character-based influence, the stronger and more natural it becomes. Building others' emotional bank accounts builds your own character. Remember this natural law. What you sow in relationships, you will reap, often multiplied. The kindness you show, the integrity you demonstrate, the promises you keep all come back to you in ways you never expected. But what about damaged relationships? What about accounts that are severely overdrawn? here's hope. Even severely damaged trust can be restored through character-based consistency. Overdrawn accounts require time and patient, consistent deposits to rebuild. You cannot make a large withdrawal and immediately make it right with one grand gesture. Trust is rebuilt the same way it was built in the first place. One small, consistent deposit at a time. The question is not whether you can afford to make these deposits. The question is whether you can afford not to make them. Every relationship in your life with your spouse, your children, your colleagues, your friends depends on the trust balance in that emotional bank account. So how do you begin? Start with what I call a 30-day challenge. Choose one person in your life, perhaps the one relationship that matters most to you. Choose one deposit type from the 6 we've discussed. Then commit to daily consistency in making that specific deposit for 30 days. But first, begin by honestly evaluating your current relationship balances. Which relationships are overdrawn? Which ones are healthy and strong? Which ones need immediate attention? This assessment will help you prioritize where to focus your efforts. Remember, this is inside-out work. Start with your own character, your own deposits, your own trustworthiness. You cannot control how others respond, but you can control your own actions and consistency. As your relationship habits improve, you'll discover that all areas of life become more effective. Strong relationships at home make you more effective at work. Trust with your team makes you more effective as a leader. Character-based deposits in one relationship strengthen your ability to make deposits in all relationships. True relationship effectiveness comes from character, not technique. When you focus on becoming a trustworthy person rather than learning techniques to get others to trust you, something fundamental shifts in all your interactions. What would happen if, starting today, you approach every relationship interaction as an opportunity to make a character-based deposit? Your marriage, your parenting, your leadership, your friendships, all of them rest on this one foundation. The trust you build through consistent character-based deposits in the emotional bank accounts of those you care about most.